In the blistering summer of 1847, along the perilous banks of the Pecos River in Texas, a single act of desperate courage would transform a solitary widow's quiet life into an encounter that would redefine everything the frontier understood about friendship, honor, and the unbreakable bonds forged between adversaries. When Eliza Thornton pulled a struggling Comanche boy from deadly quicksand, she had no idea her impulsive decision would bring an entire warrior nation to her doorstep, forever altering the course of two worlds that had known only violence and mistrust. The Texas sun beat down relentlessly on the modest homestead that Eliza Thornton had called home for the past 3 years. At 32, she had already buried her husband, James, and 2 young children, victims of a fever that ravaged the settlement of Willow Bend in the winter of 1844. Most widows would have fled back east, but Eliza possessed a fierce independence her late husband had both cherished and fretted over. She stayed, determined to carve out a life on the 160 acres they had claimed together. Before we dive back in, let us know where you're tuning in from, and if this story resonates, make sure you're subscribed because tomorrow, I've got something truly special lined up. Her log cabin perched on a gentle rise overlooking the Pecos River, its waters snaking through cottonwood groves and endless prairie grass. The land was stunning yet perilous, claimed by Mexico just 2 decades earlier and now part of the Republic of Texas, though tensions with native tribes made every day a gamble. Most of her neighbors lived in the fortified settlement of Willow Bend, 7 miles east, only venturing out in armed groups. But Eliza had grown accustomed to solitude. She tended a small garden, raised chickens and a milk cow, and earned a modest living by taking in laundry from the town's bachelors. Her rifle hung loaded above the mantel, and she could shoot as well as any man in the county, a skill James had insisted she mastered during their brief marriage. On this particular morning in late July, the heat was already stifling by sunrise. Eliza finished her chores early, hoping to escape the day's worst temperatures. She decided to check the fishing lines she'd set the previous evening along the river, carrying a woven basket and her father's old hunting knife. The path wound through dense oak and mesquite, offering welcome shade. She knew every twist of the trail but never took the landscape for granted. This was Comanche territory, and while the tribe had been relatively quiet recently, their raids were the stuff of legend and terror. Eliza reached the riverbank and checked her lines, pleased to find 2 catfish and a bass. The river was low, exposing muddy banks and new channels formed by recent rains upstream. These shifts had created treacherous quicksand pools, a hidden danger for unwary travelers. As she cleaned her catch, movement caught her eye across the river, about 200 yards downstream. A rider approached on a painted pony, moving with the fluid grace of a Comanche horseman. Her breath caught as she recognized the war paint and feathered lance marking him as no ordinary traveler. Eliza slowly reached for her knife, though it would be useless against a mounted warrior. Her rifle was back at the cabin, a mistake she cursed herself for. The warrior dismounted to water his horse, and she noticed he was young, perhaps 16 or 17, with a lean build. He seemed alone, unusual for Comanche, who typically traveled in group. His movements suggested urgency, as if he were on a critical mission or being pursued. The young warrior led his pony into shallow water, but disaster struck. The horse spooked, pulling free and scrambling to solid ground, while the boy sank into what appeared to be shallow water but was actually quicksand. Within moments, he was waist-deep, his struggles worsening his plight. Every instinct urged Eliza to flee. This was a Comanche, part of a tribe that had killed her neighbors and burned homesteads. The smart move was to slip away and let nature take its course. But as she saw the terror in his face, Eliza moved before her mind could argue. She couldn't watch another human die, regardless of who they were. Gathering fallen cottonwood branches, she lashed them together with strips from her apron to form a makeshift rope. "Stop struggling," she called across the water. "You're making it worse." The boy's eyes locked on hers, revealing not hatred but fear, intelligence, and a desperate hope for help. Eliza waded into the river, testing each step to avoid the same trap. She threw the makeshift rope and the boy caught it, gripping tightly. But the quicksand suction was too strong for her alone. Remembering her father's advice, she shouted, "Lean back, spread your weight, move slowly." The boy seemed to understand her tone, slowing his descent but still trapped. Desperate, Eliza approached the boy's pony, calming it with gentle words and tying the rope to its saddle horn. "On 3, she called, signaling with her fingers. She slapped the pony's flank, and it pulled, slowly freeing the boy from the quicksand's grip. Exhausted, they collapsed on the riverbank, the boy covered in mud but alive. His dark eyes met hers, filled with gratitude that transcended language. Preparing this story took time, so if you're enjoying it, subscribe, it means a lot." The boy touched his chest and said, "Nokona." His name, Eliza realized. She mirrored the gesture, saying, "Eliza." He nodded, repeating her name carefully. For a moment, they communicated through gestures, bridging the cultural divide. Nokona gifted her a turquoise pendant carved as a wolf, wrapped in soft leather, a token of gratitude for saving his life. With a final gesture, Nokona mounted his pony and rode off, vanishing into the brush. Eliza returned to her cabin, the turquoise wolf pendant warm against her chest, her mind reeling. She had saved a Comanche, an enemy in the eyes of her neighbors. As she lay in bed that night, she wondered what her actions would mean, unaware that they had set in motion events that would reshape the frontier's understanding of peace and honor. 3 days later, an eerie stillness settled over Eliza's homestead. The birds were silent, her chickens huddled, and the air felt charged with anticipation, like the calm before a Texas thunderstorm. Eliza had spent the past 2 days anxious, constantly checking the horizon, the turquoise wolf pendant a constant reminder of her encounter with Nokona. She considered writing to Willowbend to share her story but hesitated. What would she say? That she'd saved a Comanche and felt a connection with him? Would her neighbors understand, or would they brand her a traitor? By mid-morning, the quiet became unbearable. As Eliza tended her garden, she heard faint hoofbeats growing into a thunderous rhythm. Dropping her tools, she ran to her cabin, grabbing her rifle. Through the window, she saw dust rising, a large group approaching fast. Her heart pounded as she prepared for the worst. Over the rise came at least 60 Comanche warriors, their horses painted with war symbols, their bodies adorned with feathers and paint. At their head rode a commanding figure, perhaps 50, with silver-streaked hair and a war bonnet of eagle feathers. His resemblance to Nokona was striking, same strong jawline, same piercing eyes. This had to be his father, a chief of great authority. The war party halted 50 yards from her cabin, their silence more terrifying than their approach. The chief dismounted and spoke in Comanche, his tone formal rather than threatening. From the group, Nokona emerged, speaking in careful English. "My father, Chief Stone Wolf of the Pennatica Comanche, has come to speak with the woman who saved his son from the hungry earth." Eliza's breath caught. Chief Stone Wolf was a feared name in Willowbend, a leader whose raids had struck terror across Texas from the Pecos to the Rio Grande. "I am honored by your visit," she replied, keeping her rifle lowered but ready. "Your son is brave. The quicksand nearly took him." Nokona translated her words, and the chief asked why she risked her life for an enemy. "I saw a young man in danger," Eliza said simply. "I couldn't let anyone die, no matter who they were." When Nokona translated, Chief Stone Wolf's stern expression softened slightly. He spoke at length, and Nokona relayed, "My father says that in all his years of war with the white man, he has never seen such a thing. White settlers have watched Comanche warriors die without helping, some even causing such deaths deliberately. He wants to understand what kind of person you are." Eliza considered her response carefully, sensing the weight of the moment. "I am a woman who has lost much to this land," she said. "I know what it means to watch someone you care about die. I couldn't add to that suffering, even for a stranger." The translation seemed to move Chief Stone Wolf. He exchanged a glance with Nokona and spoke again, his tone formal. Nokona translated, "My father declares before all the warriors of our band that you, Eliza Thornton, have proven yourself a person of honor. He names you Saves the Lost, a title to be remembered in our stories. From this day forward, you are under the protection of the Pennatica Comanche." The warriors responded with a ululating cry, part war cry, part celebration, echoing across the Texas landscape. Eliza felt overwhelmed by the ceremony's intensity. "What does that mean exactly?" she asked. Chief Stone Wolf spoke in halting English. "It means you are family now. Comanche family. No warrior will harm you. No raid will touch your land. You have sanctuary." The magnitude of the honor sank in, an unprecedented act for a white settler. Then Nocona added, "My father wishes to offer you a choice. You may remain here under our protection, living as you have but safe, or you may come to our village to live among our people and learn our ways. Either choice will be honored." Eliza's mind reeled. Stay safe but potentially ostracized by her own people, or leave everything to live among a tribe whose language and customs were foreign. "I need time to consider such an important decision," she said. Chief Stone Wolf nodded approvingly. "Wisdom," he said in English. "Good." He spoke in Comanche, which Nocona translated. "My father says wise decisions require thought. He will leave warriors here to protect you while you decide. Tomorrow at sunrise, he will return for your answer." The chief issued instructions, and 10 warriors dismounted, setting up a camp near Eliza's cabin with practiced efficiency. The rest prepared to depart. Before leaving, Chief Stone Wolf approached Eliza, unwrapping a silver armband adorned with turquoise stones matching the wolf pendant. "This belonged to my grandmother," he said in careful English. "She was bridge person, made peace between tribes. You are bridge person too, maybe between Comanche and White Eyes. This will help you remember what is possible." Eliza accepted the armband with trembling hands, understanding its profound significance. "I am deeply honored," she said. With a final nod, Chief Stone Wolf mounted his stallion and led his warriors away, their departure as dramatic as their arrival. As the dust settled, Eliza stood alone with 10 Comanche warriors tasked with her protection, the surreal shift in her life sinking in. That evening, Nocona approached with 2 bowls of stew. "You must be hungry," he said. "Tomorrow brings big choice. Tonight, we eat together, and I tell you about my people to help you understand what my father offers." As they shared the meal, Eliza realized her solitary life was over. Whether she stayed or joined the Comanche, she was now a bridge between worlds, marked by the turquoise wolf and silver armband, carrying the weight of 2 people's hopes. As evening fell, Eliza sat with Nocona, sharing the simple stew and listening to his stories of Comanche life. He painted a vivid picture of a complex society with intricate laws, deep spiritual beliefs, and fierce loyalty to family and tribe, a world far removed from the savage tales told in Willow Bend. But he was honest about the challenges. "My people and yours have shed much blood," he said under the star-filled Texas sky. "There are warriors in my father's band who have lost brothers, sons, wives to white soldiers and settlers. They see your kindness to me as unusual, maybe suspicious. If you come to live among us, it will not be easy. You will have to prove yourself again and again." Eliza asked about daily life, the role of women, and what would be expected if she left her homestead. Nocona described a demanding but rewarding existence, rich with meaning. "But if you stay here," he continued, "you will be alone between 2 worlds. The white settlers will not understand why Comanche warriors protect you. They may see you as an enemy, a traitor. My people will protect you, but from a distance. You will be safe but separated from both peoples." As dawn approached, Eliza sat on her porch in the pre-dawn darkness, watching the Comanche guards maintain their silent vigil. They moved with precision, checking the perimeter for threats, their presence reassuring rather than menacing. The turquoise wolf pendant and silver armband felt heavy, symbols of the trust placed in her. She wrestled with the most momentous decision of her life, knowing her choice would ripple beyond her own future, potentially shaping relations between whites and Comanches for generations. The eastern horizon began to lighten when she heard approaching horses, not the thunderous charge of before, but the measured pace of a smaller group. Chief Stone Wolf appeared through the morning mist with about 20 warriors, older men whose lined faces and dignified bearing suggested they were tribal elders. They formed a semicircle, indicating a formal council. Nocona took his place among them, subdued by the ceremony's gravity. "Saves the lost," Chief Stone Wolf said, using the name he had given her. "The sun rises on a new day. What path will you choose?" Eliza stood, her decision crystallized by the moment's wait. "Great Chief," she began, her voice steady, "I am honored by your offer to live among your people and learn your ways. But I believe I can serve both our peoples better by remaining here, in this place between your world and mine." A murmur ran through the warriors, some approving, others skeptical. Chief Stone Wolf waited for her to continue. "If I come to your village," Eliza said, "I become part of your world but lost to mine. The white settlers will see me as someone who abandoned her own people. But if I stay here under your protection, I can be a bridge. I can speak to both sides, help them understand each other, maybe prevent some of the bloodshed that has marked our histories." Nocona translated for those who might not understand English, and Eliza saw several elders nod thoughtfully, though some remained wary. Chief Stone Wolf stepped closer, studying her intently. "You would be alone," he said, "neither fully Comanche nor fully white. This is a difficult path, a dangerous path. Are you strong enough for such a burden?" "I don't know," Eliza admitted honestly, "but I know I have to try. Too much blood has been spilled because our peoples don't understand each other. Maybe I can help change that, even in small ways." An elder warrior, Winter Star, spoke in Comanche, his tone challenging. Chief Stone Wolf translated. "Winter Star asks how we can trust you to speak fairly for our people when trouble arises. How do we know you will not side with your own kind?" Eliza anticipated the question. She held up the turquoise wolf pendant and rolled up her sleeve to show the silver armband. "These are not just gifts," she said. "They are sacred trust. When I accepted them, I accepted responsibility for the lives and honor they represent. I cannot break such trust and still live with myself. Your son's life flows in my veins now, as surely as if we shared blood. I will speak for your people as I would for my own family." Her words carried weight. Several warriors exchanged glances, and even Winter Star seemed to consider her response favorably. Chief Stone Wolf's expression remained unreadable. "There is wisdom in your choice," he said finally, "but wisdom alone is not enough. You must learn our ways, our language, our customs if you are to speak for us truly. And you must prove yourself to those of my people who still doubt." Eliza nodded. "I'm willing to learn whatever is necessary." After a brief discussion with his elders, Chief Stone Wolf announced, "We will try this path, but there must be conditions to protect both our peoples." Over the next hour, Eliza negotiated an unprecedented framework. Her homestead would be neutral ground for Comanche and white emissaries to meet safely. She would learn Comanche language and customs through tribal teachers, and in return, teach interested Comanches about white ways to foster understanding. Most crucially, she would mediate conflicts, carrying messages and seeking solutions without prejudice. "Understand," Chief Stone Wolf warned, "this path will make you enemies among both peoples. There are white men who profit from war with the Comanche, just as there are warriors among my people who believe only in the blade and the bullet. Both will see you as a threat." Eliza nodded gravely. "I understand the risks, but someone has to try to build peace instead of preparing for war." The agreement was sealed with a ceremony led by a medicine man, Seize the Stars, whose scarred face and ancient eyes spoke of deep spiritual wisdom. He performed a blessing over Eliza, burning sage and chanting in an old dialect Nocona struggled to translate. The ritual marked her as a bridge between worlds, her word to be honored by the Comanche nation. Chief Stone Wolf presented her with a final gift, a pinto mare named Moon Shadow, trained for war and peace, fast enough to carry messages, brave enough to stand in battle. "She will be companion and protector," the chief said, "a reminder of the trust we place in you." Eliza stroked the mare's neck, feeling a bond form as Moon Shadow nickered softly. But the day's revelations weren't over. Chief Stone Wolf announced, "Saves the lost, your first test comes sooner than we hope. 3 days' ride to the east, in Clearwater Valley, white settlers have built a town on land our treaties guarantee for Comanche winter camp. They refuse to leave, and some of our young warriors speak of driving them out with fire and blade. Go to this place, learn why they break the treaties, see if there is a path to peace, or if we must prepare for war." Eliza's stomach tightened at the magnitude of the task. "Will I go alone?" she asked. "Nocona will accompany you with 2 warriors, Red Hawk and Quiet Fox," Chief Stone Wolf replied. "They will stay hidden unless needed, close enough to protect you if the settlers prove hostile. Approach as a lone woman seeking supplies. Learn the situation without revealing your purpose." Nocona stepped forward, his face grave. "My father honors you greatly with this task, but he also tests you. If you bring peace to Clearwater Valley, it will prove to both our peoples that your path is right." "And if I fail?" Eliza asked. The chief's expression grew stern. "Then many will die, and the chance for peace may be lost for generations. The weight of their lives will rest on your shoulders, saves the lost. Choose your words carefully. As the war party rode away, leaving Eliza with the enormous responsibility, she looked toward the eastern horizon where Clearwater Valley awaited. In 3 days, she would discover whether her choice to be a bridge was an act of wisdom or folly. The turquoise wolf pendant felt heavy, a reminder of the hopes and fears of two peoples. Eliza set out at first light on Moon Shadow, her heart heavy with the weight of her mission. Nocona rode beside her on his painted pony, while Red Hawk and Quiet Fox flanked them at a distance, maintaining the illusion that Eliza traveled with only one companion. The Texas landscape was deceptively peaceful. Rolling hills of prairie grass waved like a green ocean, dotted with wildflowers like Indian paintbrush and bluebonnet. But signs of conflict scarred the land. Burned homesteads, overgrown graves, and abandoned wagons told of the violence that had soaked this frontier for decades. As they rode, Nocona shared intelligence about Clearwater Valley. The settlement, established 8 months ago by families from Tennessee led by Ezekiel Carter, believed they had legal title from the state of Texas. The problem was that the valley lay within territory reserved for Comanche winter camps under federal treaties, creating a legal dispute no one seemed able to resolve. The white settlers believe their papers give them the right, Nocona explained as they navigated rocky terrain. But our treaties were signed before their papers. Both sides claim the law. What do your people want? Eliza asked. Complete removal, or would they consider sharing the valley during certain seasons? Nocona's expression grew thoughtful. My father would accept many solutions if they were fair. The valley is large enough for both peoples if there is good faith. But some younger warriors grow impatient. They see every day the settlers remain as theft of our sacred places. Their conversation was interrupted by Quiet Fox, who had scouted ahead. He returned with urgent news in rapid Comanche, making Nocona and Red Hawk tense. What is it? Eliza asked. Quiet Fox saw smoke ahead, Nocona replied grimly, too much for cooking fires. Something is burning in Clearwater Valley. They urged their horses to greater speed, cresting a ridge that revealed the valley. Black smoke billowed from multiple points in the settlement, and people ran in panic. An attack? Eliza asked, fearing they were too late to stop the violence Chief Stonewolf had sent her to prevent. Nocona studied the scene. No war party would attack in daylight like this, and the fires are wrong. This is something else. They descended cautiously, Red Hawk and Quiet Fox spreading out to watch for threat. As they neared Clearwater Valley, the fire's source became clear. Several buildings burned, but these were controlled fires, with settlers fighting to contain them. Eliza and Nocona rode in, posing as a traveler and her guide seeking supplies. The town was larger than expected, with about 40 buildings around a central square, mostly log cabins but some sturdier structures signaling permanence. The settlers were too busy to notice newcomers. Men, women, and children formed bucket brigades from the well to the burning buildings. The fire had started in the general store and threatened nearby homes. Help us! Called a soot-streaked woman, tears in her eyes. Eliza dismounted Moon Shadow and joined the effort, passing buckets alongside strangers. Nocona followed, though some settlers eyed him suspiciously. A Comanche helping save their town was unthinkable. For 2 hours, Eliza worked to contain the fire, which destroyed the store, a blacksmith shop, and 2 homes. As the crisis eased, she observed the community. These weren't hardened Indian fighters but families, farmers and craftsmen seeking a fresh start. Ezekiel Carter, the leader, was a tall, bearded man in his 40s, his face etched with exhaustion. Ma'am, I can't thank you enough, he said, removing his hat. I'm Ezekiel Carter, and this is Clearwater Valley. We don't get many travelers willing to help strangers. Eliza Thornton, she replied, maintaining her cover. I was passing through for supplies when we saw the smoke. Anyone would have done the same. Ezekiel's eyes shifted to Nocona, suspicion evident. Your guide, he asked. He is, Eliza said firmly. He knows this land better than anyone and has saved my life more than once. It wasn't a lie, though not in the way Ezekiel would understand. Any friend of yours is welcome, Ezekiel said, though his tone was cautious. But are you familiar with the Indian troubles here? It's not safe for a woman with just one guide. What kind of troubles? Eliza asked, probing their perspective. Ezekiel's expression darkened. Comanche war parties have been spotted. They claim this valley as their winter grounds, say we're trespassing. But we've got legal title, bought and paid for. They can't run us off. Have they made threats? Eliza pressed. Not directly, Ezekiel admitted, but their scouts watch us. Some families talk of leaving, but we've put everything into this settlement. We can't walk away. That evening, Ezekiel offered Eliza and Nocona shelter in the half-built church, alongside families displaced by the fire. As settlers gathered around campfires, Eliza listened to their stories. They were desperate people. Samuel Porter lost his Tennessee farm to debt. A widow with 2 sons had no other options. Young couples sought prosperity unattainable back east. But darker voices emerged. Ezekiel's son, Nathan, and a group of younger men spoke angrily about the Comanche presence, advocating for force to drive them out. We didn't come here to be terrorized by savages, Nathan declared loudly. If they want a fight, we'll give them one they won't forget. Hush that talk, Ezekiel warned. We're building a peaceful community, not starting a war. Peace doesn't work with Indians, Nathan retorted with youthful certainty. You can't negotiate with people who only understand force. Eliza exchanged a glance with Nocona, who listened with carefully concealed tension. She could see his struggle to remain calm amid the settlers' prejudice, but he maintained his role as her silent guide with discipline. Later that night, when most settlers were asleep, Eliza found a moment to speak privately with Ezekiel by the firelight, where he studied land deeds and legal papers. Mr. Carter, she began quietly, may I speak frankly about the Indian situation? Ezekiel looked up, curious. Of course, Mrs. Thornton. Do you have experience with such matters? Some, Eliza replied carefully. I've lived on the frontier long enough to know most conflicts come from misunderstanding, not evil. Have you ever spoken with Comanche representatives about sharing this valley? Ezekiel's expression turned skeptical. Ma'am, with respect, you can't negotiate with people who don't respect the rule of law. We have legal title. That should settle it. But what if the Comanche have legal claims too? Eliza pressed. What if federal treaties guarantee them this valley? Wouldn't it be better to find a solution that honors both rights rather than fight a war that could destroy everything you've built? Ezekiel considered her words. Do you know something specific about such treaties? He asked. This was the pivotal moment. Eliza took a deep breath, knowing her next words would commit her to the dangerous path she'd chosen. I know the Comanche consider this valley sacred ground for their winter camps, she said. I also know they're not unreasonable if approached with respect and good faith. How could you possibly know that? Ezekiel asked, suspicion creeping into his voice. Because I've spoken with them, Eliza replied. Because they've offered to negotiate a peaceful solution if your people are genuinely interested in coexistence rather than conquest. The silence was heavy. Ezekiel stared at her, grappling with disbelief and fear. You've spoken with the Comanche? He asked slowly. How is that possible? It's a long story, Eliza said, but the important thing is that Chief Stonewolf, their leader, has authorized me to explore whether peace is possible. He's willing to meet with your representatives to discuss terms that could allow both peoples to use this valley without conflict. Ezekiel's hand moved toward his pistol, a reflex Nocona noticed instantly, tensing for action. Eliza caught his eye and shook her head slightly. Mrs. Thornton, Ezekiel said carefully, are you saying you're an intermediary between the Comanche and white settlers? I'm saying I've seen too much bloodshed and want to prevent more, Eliza replied. Your families deserve to build peaceful lives here. So do the Comanche families who've used this valley for generations. Maybe both can be true. The weight of decision hung in the night air as Ezekiel wrestled with ideas that challenged everything he knew about the frontier, Indians, and ownership. His response would determine whether Clearwater Valley became a place of negotiation or a battlefield soaked in blood. Dawn broke with an ominous stillness that made Eliza's skin crawl. She had spent a sleepless night waiting for Ezekiel's answer, but he had asked for time to consult other town leaders. What she hadn't expected was to wake surrounded by a dozen armed men, their rifles trained on her and Nocona. Nathan Carter stood at their center, his face twisted with hatred. Well, well, he sneered, finger near his rifle's trigger, the Comanche spy and her savage friend thought they could fool us with their firefighting act. But we're not as stupid as you thought. Eliza raised her hands slowly, projecting calm while her mind raced. Nokona remained still, but she sensed his readiness to act. "There's been a misunderstanding," she said. "I came to prevent bloodshed, not cause it." "The only misunderstanding," Nathan spat, "was us thinking you were a decent white woman instead of an Indian-loving traitor. My father might listen to your lies about peace, but some of us know what needs to be done." Caleb Wright, whose family lost their home in the fire, stepped forward with rope. "We'll tie you both up and use you as bait to draw in that Comanche war party. When Chief Stone Wolf comes for his spy and his son, we'll be ready." The plan hit Eliza like a blow. They intended to use her and Nokona to spark an ambush that would destroy the fragile trust Chief Stone Wolf had placed in her. "You don't understand," Eliza said desperately. "If Chief Stone Wolf believes his son is captured or killed, he'll bring hundreds of warriors. You'll start a war that will consume this region." "Good," Nathan replied coldly. "It's time to finish what should have been settled years ago. Texas doesn't have room for both civilized people and savages." A commotion erupted from the town square, shouts and running feet signaling a new crisis. Nathan hesitated, sending 2 men to investigate. They returned pale. "Nathan, you need to see this," one gasped. "Riders from the west, a lot of them." Eliza's heart sank. Red Hawk and Quiet Fox must have seen the confrontation and alerted Chief Stone Wolf, who was approaching with a war party to rescue his son. "How many?" Nathan demanded. "At least 50, maybe more," the scout replied. "They're riding hard, painted for war." Nathan's eyes gleamed with cruel satisfaction. "Perfect. Our bait worked better than expected. We'll position ourselves around the square, let them ride into our trap. When the shooting starts, you two will be the first to die." But Eliza saw Nathan's miscalculation. The Comanche weren't charging blindly. They were seasoned warriors who would scout the settlement, identify defenses, and plan their attack. The settlers, mostly farmers and craftsmen, were unprepared against such fighters. "Nathan," she urged, "this won't end how you think. Those warriors are coming to rescue Nokona, not attack. Release us now, and we can prevent a massacre." "The only massacre will be of Indians stupid enough to ride into our trap," Nathan replied. A war cry echoed across the valley, wild and haunting, sending chills through Eliza and making settlers shift nervously. Nokona spoke, his voice calm but heavy with sadness. "You have made a terrible mistake. My father does not negotiate with those who take prisoners through treachery. When he arrives, he will show no mercy." Nathan's confidence wavered as more war cries answered from multiple directions. The Comanche were surrounding Clearwater Valley, cutting off escape routes. Panic spread as families barricaded themselves and men scrambled to defensive positions with inadequate weapons. "Nathan," Eliza tried again, "let me go to Chief Stone Wolf under a flag of truce. I can explain this was a misunderstanding. Most of your people want peace. If fighting starts, there's no going back." For a moment, Nathan seemed uncertain, but before he could respond, Ezekiel arrived, flushed with anger. "Nathan, what have you done?" he demanded. "I asked for time to consider Mrs. Thornton's proposal, not to take her prisoner." "She's a spy," Nathan retorted. "She's planning to help the Indians attack us." Ezekiel's face went ashen. "You fool," he whispered. "You've doomed us all." The thunderous sound of approaching horses cut through the air. Chief Stone Wolf and his war party had arrived, far more than 50 warriors. As settlers scrambled, Nathan dragged Eliza and Nokona to the town square as human shields, the standoff teetering on the edge of catastrophic violence. The sun climbed toward its zenith as the standoff in Clearwater Valley teetered on the edge of violence. Chief Stone Wolf's war party of nearly 100 warriors surrounded the settlement, their discipline stark against the settlers' panic. Nathan Carter held Eliza and Nokona as hostages, planning an ambush, but chaos erupted as families fled and men prepared for a hopeless fight. Sarah Carter, Ezekiel's wife, stepped forward with fierce resolve. "Nathan, release them now," she commanded. Other women, including Mary Porter, joined her, forming a protective circle around Eliza and Nokona. "We came to build lives, not start wars," Mary said. "If there's a chance for peace, we take it." Outnumbered by their own families, Nathan's men hesitated. Sarah and Mary cut the ropes binding Eliza and Nokona. Ezekiel arrived, confronting his son. "Lower your weapon, Nathan. You've caused enough damage." Nathan's defiance wavered as his father's authority prevailed. "You've divided our community," Ezekiel said. "Step aside." Eliza seized the moment. "I must speak to Chief Stone Wolf now to stop this," she told Sarah urgently. Sarah pressed a small wooden cross into her hand. "My mother's," she said. "It carries peace. May it help you." Eliza and Nokona walked toward the Comanche lines, every step watched by both sides. Chief Stone Wolf met them, his face a mask of fury. Nokona explained their capture and release in rapid Comanche. "Some white women freed us," Eliza added. "Most settlers want peace, but fear and misunderstanding caused this." The chief's anger softened slightly. "They took my son prisoner under a flag of truce," he said. "Such dishonor demands punishment." "Punish the guilty, not the innocent," Eliza urged, gesturing to fleeing families. "Most had no part in this. They could be allies if shown trust." Chief Stone Wolf considered her words. "What do you propose?" "A partnership," Eliza replied. "This valley can support both peoples if you cooperate." After conferring with his warriors, Chief Stone Wolf made a bold decision. "I will enter the settlement to speak with their leaders. If they show honor, we discuss sharing the valley. If they betray us, there will be no mercy." Eliza nodded, knowing the risk. "I'll protect you with my life if needed." Chief Stone Wolf, Eliza, Nokona, and 20 warriors, unpainted and weapons lowered, entered Clearwater Valley. The sight stunned the settlers, some raising rifles, but Ezekiel called for restraint. "Nobody fires," he ordered. In the town square, Chief Stone Wolf spoke clearly in English. "I am Chief Stone Wolf of the Penatica Comanche. I come not as an enemy but to prevent innocent death. Some of you dishonored my son and this woman, but others showed kindness. I offer a chance to share this land in peace." Ezekiel stepped forward. "We want peace, but this is our home. What do you propose?" Over the next hour, with Eliza translating nuances and Nokona providing insight, they forged an agreement. The Comanche would use the northern valley for winter camps, leaving the southern part for the settlers' town. Both would respect each other's sacred sites and cooperate in trade and survival. The agreement was sealed with a peace pipe from Chief Stone Wolf and a written pledge from Ezekiel. Nathan, shamed, approached the chief. "I was wrong to act in fear. I ask forgiveness." The chief replied, "Honor is learning from mistakes. You've taken the first step." As the sun set, children from both groups played together, and adults began cautious talks of trade. Nokona asked Eliza, "Will you stay to ensure the agreement holds?" "For now," she said, "but my work is just beginning. Other conflicts need what we've learned here." The turquoise wolf pendant gleamed under the stars, marking her as a bridge between worlds. Eliza knew challenges awaited. Some would oppose this peace, but tonight Clearwater Valley was a beacon of hope. She was no longer just a widow surviving the frontier. She was a diplomat, a bearer of trust in a land scarred by conflict, ready to carry her calling to other battlegrounds. As stars filled the Texas sky, Clearwater Valley stood as a fragile testament to peace. The agreement between Chief Stone Wolf and Ezekiel Carter marked a new chapter, with Comanche and settlers sharing the land, northern valley for winter camps, southern for the town. Trade began, with settlers offering medical knowledge and Comanche sharing expertise in the land's resources. Eliza, now Saves the Lost, became the valley's guardian, ensuring the agreement held. She learned Comanche ways from tribal teachers and taught settlers about their neighbors, fostering understanding. Nokona often visited, his presence a reminder of the bond forged in Quicksand. "You've proven the path is possible," he said, "but it will always be hard." Word of Clearwater Valley's success spread, inspiring hope in some and suspicion in others. Eliza knew enemies of peace, war-hungry settlers and vengeful warriors, would challenge her work. Yet she embraced her role, riding Moon Shadow to other frontier conflicts, the turquoise wolf pendant and silver armband symbols of her calling. Nathan Carter, humbled by his mistakes, worked to rebuild trust, helping trade efforts. Ezekiel and Sarah supported Eliza, their wooden cross a token of shared faith in peace. Chief Stone Wolf's wisdom guided the Comanche, his trust in Eliza unwavering. Clearwater Valley thrived, not through grand gestures but through small acts. Children playing together, families trading goods, communities learning to see humanity in each other. Eliza was no longer a lonely widow but a bridge between worlds, carrying hope across a divided frontier. Her journey continued, one step at a time, toward a future where trust might overcome fear.